Now, slicing knives and serrated knives. Straight handled, straight edge. Not like this. These are slicers for meats. Serrated edges are used for bread and pastry. Some people use them to slice tomato. Why do they use a serrated knife to slice a tomato? Because they don't know how to sharpen a chef's knife. It's easier and faster to cut a tomato with a sharp chef's knife. And this isn't my knife. It's not out of my kit. But I'll sharpen that one. But it should go right through a tomato. This one I know one. I could solve this all day on here. And it's going to slide off. That's why people use a serrated knife for tomato. You don't need one. You just need to have a sharp knife. By the time I'm done sharpening this, it'll go right through a tomato. These are really for pastry and bread only. Offset serrated knife. This is probably my favorite. When I buy these serrated knives, it's hard to resharpen them, and they don't go dull because you're only using them for bread. I always buy the cheap long ones. I like the $12 serrated knife. That's what I have in my kit. Smaller one, same thing as a serrated knife. This type of serrated knife I keep for talking to culinary ones. This is your Ginsu. I can cut through a can and cut through a tomato knife. These are crap. These are dangerous knives. These are not something that you should ever cut with again. If you have them at home, throw them away, please. You can give them away, but you're wishing cuts on someone else if you do. They have nothing in the handle. It's very cheap steel. It's just a unique way of manipulating the stamped steel. So they're as cheap as could be. Any knife set that you can buy for $20 is crap. It's just their crap knife. If you don't spend money on a knife, it's not a good knife. So this kind of crappy edge, throw it out. They are dangerous. Years ago, I used one at my mom's house and cut myself, and it just pissed me off. Because a real knife, I wouldn't. But these, you can't cut through anything unless you saw with them. The only thing you're sawing through is stuff you're using a serrated knife for. So they're dumb. Now, slicers. The problem with these, and I've gone to places on a carving station and they're using these to slice beef. You do not, this rips apart. It works for pastry, but this rips apart the proteins in the beef and you get crappy looking shredded beef. It's not the smart thing to do. The right one is a slicing knife. This kind of bevel is called a Grattan edge. It's another variation, and this is like the cheap. Actually, it says Cisco Semi-Soft knife. I know how to sharpen it. It's a forged knife. It's the cheap version of it. It does have some weight up here, but if I keep an edge on it, this is a razor blade, guys. This is a super sharp, great knife. Probably could steal it, but it's a great, super sharp knife. The ones with the Grattan edge help when you're carving meat, because that's what these are only used for, really, is carving meat. The Grattan edge helps separate the blood when you're going through the protein. So these are much better. These are ideal for your carving station. And these are meat slicers. This one, I don't mind them when they're not Grattan edge, but this one is a little bit thick. I was looking for, often you'll find them like this with the straight edge slicer. They're okay. I couldn't find one in the kitchen. But they're okay knives. The Grattan edge is much, much better for a meat carving station. It just works better. And like anything, you do need to have the right tools to do a good job with what you're doing. So there are your slices. Now, all kinds of different fillet knives, boning knives. There are flexible and durable edge knives. These are for meat cutting. They have a solid edge. There's not a lot of bend in this. This one in particular, there's not much to it. Cutting beef, cutting chicken, this is great. These will work too, but these are flexible versions. On some of your meat cutting, you don't want flexibility. You want to be able to scrape the side of a bone, so you need a boning knife that has a hard edge. Generally, in boning knives, I don't waste my time with the cheap variations on them. You don't use it a lot, or if you are using a lot, you should invest in some money. Now, as opposed to holding the chef knife, which I'm going to go into a lot of detail on, this one you hold more like a dagger. So you're not going to pinch. I pinch it just out of habit, but you hold it like a dagger depending on what you're doing. If you're doing hanging sides of beef, often you're not going to do this because you're not going to have hanging sides of beef, but a lot of the meat fat, it's done like a dagger it's held like a dagger. So this one you may hold a little bit differently, absolutely, than the chef's knives. These would be called boning knives because they're solid. Fillet knives aren't always flexible, but are generally flexible. This is the one I think you get in your kit, and it should have some flexibility. It's made to be used with fish, so when I'm filleting, I can go right down the bones. So much better to have a flexible knife for that. This is my Mercer. It's kind of like the one in your kit. It's a little bit more valuable, but look at that. And you get a good bend out of that stuff. And depending on the type of fish you're doing, it can be crucial. When you're cutting down like a big halibut, and you have to go down to the backbone and curve, you can lose a ton of meat along that backbone if you don't have a flexible knife. So that's key for that. This is one that's a Mundal, which is just about the same as like the Dexter Russell. It's a cheaper version. It works really well. I have one of these at home. I use at home sometimes. I debone my turkeys often, make the rods out of it. This knife, guys, this is the boning knife. I had it made in about '95 when I was doing a ton of meat. This was a Scimitar, which they use a lot for butchering, and we had a guy that was bringing in knives all the time. So, what did I say, 94, 95, something like that. So, is that 12, 13?
15.
14 years. So 14 years ago I had this knife made, and it started out about this long. The guy carved it down. I took a magic marker and drew on it. I said how much, and he said $12. He came in the next day, and he had it ground down to about this shape.
I'm so sorry, but
That's
I need
okay.
to go to class. If anyone does not have a textbook, they are at the bookstores now. Just came in
Yay.
this morning.
That's awesome news.
Thank you.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the rest.
Thank you. That's good news. There's about 6 people. I don't know who screwed up. I think it was the bookstore. But people that didn't have textbooks. So for some of you that may have not done any homework, there's other people that didn't either, but it's because they didn't have a book. And so if I asked you, you probably should have said, I just didn't have a book. I like this one, and I had it made because I've gotten in 70-pound halibut, and a flexible fillet knives are generally 8 inches. Maybe 6 to 8 inches. Sometimes you might find a 10 inch. You'll never find one this long, so that's why I had it made, because I can use it for flexible, but it's durable enough that I can use it for meat too. So I really love this knife. I use it all the time. And this was particularly cheap. It's a freaking $12 knife, but I know how to maintain it. Generally, my knives and my knife kit with the duct tape on it, I don't sharpen them. I steal them, I hone them. So let me go into, I brought out a cleaver. Guys, I have this kit here. I probably have enough for 2 more kits at home of different knives. All kinds of different, there's definitely this kind of cleaver. This other one was a small variation of a meat cleaver. Depending on what you're using is different things.